Hey everyone, this is smpratte, and today we're going to talk about, is the Sword and Shield era the best in Pokemon history? This was a recent discussion on E4, and in my opinion, Sword and Shield is hands down the best modern era, but is it better than WotC? That's what we're going to talk about in this video. I'm going to go through the main 8 eras in the Pokemon TCG and see how they compare to Sword and Shield. So the 8 main eras are going to be WotC, EX, Diamond and Pearl, Heart Gold, Soul Silver, Black and White, XY, Sun and Moon, and then finally Sword and Shield. And I think most of us agree the modern range is when the full art started in Black and White, so Black and White to Sword and Shield. And Sword and Shield just dices all of them. Like, it cuts the competition. Like, it slices through the entire modern era for these reasons that you're about to hear. Number one, the art. It cannot be overstated. The art in Sword and Shield from bottom to top is unprecedented. You have stuff from like a common Komiya card that'll never be over $1, all the way to like your Giratina full art, or your Aerodactyl Jurassic Park, or Machamp just hauling lumber around in the town. The alt arts all the way down to the 10-cent cards have such a dynamic, diverse range of art. It's unbelievable. It's something that you never had in other eras. Sun and Moon had a nice mix, and X and Y maybe, but especially going back to WotC, it was basically like a Sears portrait studio for all the boomers out there who understand that reference. You had a Pokemon with a backdrop. You had a Pokemon with a color. Now there's a lot more colors. There's a lot more going on. The art from bottom to top in Sword and Shield is just 10 out of 10. Speaking of art, speaking of 10 out of 10, next up on the list, alt arts. I could just sit down in this chair and say alt arts, end the video. Alt arts are the pinnacle of a high-octane collectible. It's the perfect marriage of unique art and rarity combined. That's why everyone loves them. They're so exciting. They are the answer to the long question that I was asking back when I started doing videos, a little bit more cringy than this when I still rocked the lab coat. Everybody back then was like, what's the next gold star? Is it the hyper rares? Is it the tag team? Is it the gold Reshizard? It's the alt arts. Alt arts are the next gold stars. You heard it here first. It's absolutely the pinnacle of a chase card. You have art in there, even for Pokemon I don't even care much for, like the Urshifer, things like that, done by the Studio Ghibli artists. Like, it's got layers. Like, these cards are just above and beyond. It's a collector's dream come true. So alt arts are something unique to the Sword and Shield era. They are primarily in that era. That's what this era is going to be known for. Kind of like EX. You think of EX, you think gold stars. You're going to think of that when you think of Sword and Shield. Alt arts, case closed. That's enough. But we're still not done. There's some other points here I think are relevant for Sword and Shield that other eras didn't experience as well. And another one of those is the regular sets do well on their own. Sword and Shield doesn't need to lean on the super Hidden Fate, Shiny GX, super shiny full art mini set. It doesn't need to lean on that as much. You know, the standard sets are also very exciting. In fact, Lost Abyss was so exciting, I went through almost a whole case here off camera just because I wanted to get that alt art, just because there's so much good art in there. Like the Drowsy looks good, the Hypno looks good. It's just a fun, nice identity. Gives me WotC vibes. One of the things I like from the WotC era, you know, comparing some of those in the past, Team Rocket Returns and EX and things like that, the set identity's fun. And Sword and Shield really did that, especially the Japanese side, Eevee Heroes, Lost Abyss. There's something there that comes together. It all works well. Aquapolis is another good example from WotC. So Sword and Shield did a great job of that. It didn't need to lean too much on just the little shiny mini stonker sets. It can also be a lot of fun just to open the regular sets. And then last but not least, final segue, the most amount of Pokemon cards printed. 20% of Pokemon cards printed were done the past 2 years during the Sword and Shield era. So that right there is the final nail in the coffin, that there is so much demand during this era. They had to rev up the printers up to like WotC era. If you weren't aware, the level that WotC era printers were going was so insane that you didn't have sports sets come out in 1999 because so many printers were full of Pokemon cards. It's a real true story. There are certain sports sets that didn't have a release in 1999 because all the printers were full of Pokemon. That's what was going on now. They had to go buy out other facilities to print more Pokemon cards. Again, 20% printed in the past 2 years says it all. So those are the reasons why Sword and Shield is just an absolute Goliath of an era. It went above and beyond what I expected. There's even some bonus things too, like outside of the concept, they handled the 2020 hype. They said, we'll take it from here. They took that baton with grace from 2020. When it was nuts, all the scalping and all that, they're like, we got you, fam. We'll fire up the printers. We got it. Remember when Shining Legends was doing whatever with the scalpers and they're like, we got it, don't worry. Fired up the printers. it's all better. That's something you did not see in the previous eras. Previous eras of Pokemon, especially when you go down the ladder, no kind of communication. Like, you might as well have been on a southern island isolated from Pokemon because they were not going to find you. Like, no kind of communication at all. Where under Sword and Shield, they communicate more with businesses. They listened and said, oh, you guys really need supply. This product is like 2xing or whatever. So we'll go ahead and give you that supply. That's something you did not see as much in the previous era. So there's all these bonus things that I think Sword and Shield did, not only from like a conceptual set design, but operational with Pokemon as well. Perfect combination that you really didn't experience before. You know, maybe WotC a bit. EX and everything was in the low points. You didn't have it as much. But X and Y had issues, Black and White had issues, even Sun and Moon had issues, and you didn't have the straight line of communication where Pokemon was aware like they are now. Now, the only con I could think of for Sword and Shield, the only one, which is not unique to Sword and Shield, the English sets especially are huge. Like, those sets are massive. Like, they're diesel. Like, the set size for some of this stuff is insane. You know, you can't just open product for fun and get a set after like a case. You're gonna have to open like a whole bank account to buy like thousands of cases to complete a set. That's the only con in my opinion. And again, it's not unique to Sword and Shield. It was going on in Sun and Moon. You already had all the hyper rares and all that stuff going on that made sets so bloated. And now you still have the same deal going on. So Japanese is a little bit better in my opinion. Still big, still a lot. But overall, that's the only con I could see. Now, getting back to the big question, is it the best era? I would say it's the best easily until you get to WotC. The only reason I think WotC still can stand toe-to-toe with Sword and Shield is because of the legacy. Without WotC and the legacy and what it did in the 90s, we wouldn't be here today. So maybe it's a little bit nostalgia or a little bit giving it a little bit too much respect, because even with all the nostalgia that I have, I'm not blind to know that there is nothing comparable in WotC to an alt art. You know, let's keep it real. A lot of the WotC stuff, again, that Sears Portrait Studio backdrop of just a Pokemon and a color in the background. That's what it was. You didn't have all these colors like you do in this Voltorb sitting next to me. You know, here's the Komiya Voltorb from the 90s and then the newest one from Sword and Shield. It was a different game back then. You know, it was early days, but it's got that legacy to it. You know, the prices, the inertia, what it's done. It's got the foundation. So that is something there. The first is a thing, a value. So to me, it's the best until WotC, and I think it could even overshadow WotC as far as art is concerned, as far as like concept is concerned. But again, you could only get here because of WotC. You know, you can't just automatically have the iPhone right out of the gate. You had to struggle through the progress to get to the iPhone. And I think that's the analogy I have here with WotC, is like kind of respecting the OG and respecting what it did in its own right and how much it sold back then and what it's done for the market. But if we compare Sword and Shield to the pros and cons of the modern, it's like a VMAX Charizard fighting like a level 1 Pidgey. Like, it's not even close. So if we start going back with Sun and Moon had full arts. They were all right, but they had that diagonal sheen on them. Common and uncommon cards weren't bad. They did have a better mix of art going on, but Sun and Moon is responsible for one of the worst card releases, the worst card rarities. I think at this point we're completely full. Hyper rares or rainbow rares, whatever you call them. We've seen the end of the rainbow. Just take it all back. We're done. We are completely full of rainbow rares and hyper rares. We're done. It was cute in the beginning in Sun and Moon, but they just don't hold up. If anything, they feel kind of disappointing or lackluster. I think the best way I could think to give you like my perspective is that if I do an alt art binder, it's beautiful. You're turning pages, seeing all the different alt arts there, the evolutions or whatever it is. Where with the rainbow rares, it's just the same thing over and over again. It's like the Zoolander, it's the same pose. Like Latigra, Portia, it's the same thing over and over. So Sun and Moon era is responsible for that. They took a chance. At first it was cute. It was like, oh, okay, Lisa Frank. Like, we got the Gay Pride Donald Trump gumshoes hyper rare. Like, oh, okay, it's cool. But after that, it's like, okay, they all look the same. So yeah, that's a tough one. To me, it doesn't deliver as much as alt art. Wherever you land with hyper rares, it doesn't deliver like alt arts do. And then we start going back even further, X and Y. You got the full arts, which I think some of them look good. You got the Jelly Bean Gengar. I think the XY full art, I prefer it rather than the diagonal sheen that Sun and Moon was doing. I prefer the XY full arts. The Mega full arts, the M in Mega, the M stands for mid. I'm not really big on the Mega full arts. It's not my thing. They're too busy. So that's another one where it's kind of mediocre for me. And then you had the break cards, which you don't talk about. Break cards were abysmal. they're even worse than hyper rares in my opinion. I don't even know what break cards were doing. I don't even know what was going on. But we don't talk about break cards. So X and Y did not have all the X factors that Sword and Shield did. It just didn't have the high octane alt arts. You didn't have anything close to that. While I think some of the full arts were nice, mega full arts were mid full arts, and then break cards, nah, not even close. And then that diversity of art deteriorates the further we go back. Now getting into black and white's kind of like WotC in a sense, where I give it like the foundation credit. You know, it was the first for full arts. And I remember when it came out, I was like, oh, cool. These are like a new design of cards we've never seen before. And now it's like the staple, kind of like EX when it happened. It's been like an echo of that throughout, like EX, Level X, what was going on there, we don't know. Then back to EX, and then GX and V cards, and now circling back to the original EX. So it's, you got to give some like credit to the original there of the original full arts. But outside of that, black and white is responsible for emerging powers. Go ahead to Bulbapedia right now and try to find me one card in emerging powers. Especially remove the full arts, even then the full arts are just meh. Remove the full arts. Go ahead and try to find me one card in emerging powers you're excited about. And don't lie, because it is a torture to try and find a card in emerging powers that you get excited about. So black and white did not have the strength of the concept of sets. You know, even something like Pokemon Go. Like, this to me is just unreal. Like, for anybody who didn't play the game, like, a lot of the nods in here to the game you played was just magic. It's what it's all about. It's like the Misaki promos. You did something in a game, we're going to put that into the TCG. They did that with Pokemon Go. The Ditto Pull alone. I mean, again, it's just like Altars. I could just say Ditto Pull and the video. So this is one set in Sword and Shield. The concept of the Ditto Pull alone is, again, just magic. It's something that you wouldn't get in the past because, again, that communication I mentioned earlier, these concepts come from Pokemon hiring people who understand what the crowd wants. Where back in the day, we were on Southern Islands with our volleyball, you know, talking to it by ourselves because Pokemon would not answer the call and read our cry. So, you know, we were screaming like unique art, writing in the sand, like a rare chase card that's fun to look at. Like, now they know because these millennials, the light boomers, are now in there helping out with the concept. We're back in black and white. You didn't have any of that. You just had, okay, we'll do this and we'll see how it goes. And emerging powers, by far the worst set. Again, go ahead and go to Bulbapedia right now. Try to find a card that is exciting. Emerging powers, not possible. So that is my take on the rundown of these eras. You have things like when you get into Diamond and Pearl, Heart Gold, Soul Silver, and then EX. EX, I think, is such a great pivot from WotC. I think they took the baton really well. You had the Gold Stars, you had the EX cards, which EX is still in motion today. Whether it was echoed with EX, GX, V are now exactly the same. That was a great pivot from WotC. And then I think it kind of petered a bit, went up a bit black and white, then we went up a bit XY, Sun and Moon, and then Sword and Shield just said, we're going on to another level. Like, we're taking this to the promised land. So Sword and Shield is the best era until WotC. And the only reason I think it goes toe-to-toe with WotC is because of the legacy, but it carried that baton from 2020 better than I've ever seen before. Like, it took all the chaos and hype and everything that was going on in 2020 and said, we got you, fam. We're going to sort this out. We're going to give you more products. We're going to continue to release quality artwork. We're going to continue to release stuff like this that you never thought we would do before and you never did before, you know, in any other era. So, yeah, I think it's safe to say that Sword and Shield is easily top shelf, like, without a doubt. The only reason I have WotC up there with it is because of the legacy, but even then, WotC doesn't have alt arts. WotC didn't have the comprehensive art, maybe Vending series, you know, something like that. Vending was ahead of its time where the art was so dynamic, so many artists in there, so everything had depth to it. You know, Caterpie was in a tree. It wasn't just in a green background. So, you know, that's probably the biggest vintage comp to what you see in Sword and Shield. And again, these are regular sets. Regular sets now are loaded with so many artists, loaded with so many styles. You got people knitting Pokemon, you got clay figures, you got CGI, you got hand-drawn, you got all of it. And Sword and Shield, I hope it just continues to go the way, even if it stays the same. Just do everything you're doing right now, Pokemon, and Scarlet, Violet, or whatever, just keep it going. Because I think they figured it out, they exceed expectations, and that is why, in my opinion, I think Sword and Shield is easily the best modern era, and one of the best modern eras in Pokemon, probably, that we'll ever experience. So, there it is, guys. As usual, you know the deal. Let me know how you feel. Let me know how you think about this one. I thought it was a fun topic to really dig into, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot of opinions, because we all come from different eras. I know there's people who grew up with EX, people who grew up with Diamond and Pearl, or the EX era, or WotC, or whatever it is. So let me know where you stand, where you started, how you feel. And that's pretty much it, guys. You know the deal. Let me know how you feel. Until next time.